Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Purdy Insurance. Visit Purdy Insurance on Market Street in Sunbury or visit online at purdyinsurance.com. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
First and goal at the 6 near hash, attacking the north end zone to our left. It is Kevon Lee up the middle. Lee to the goal line. He is there. Touchdown, Penn State. The Nittany Lions cap a 75-yard drive and take the lead. Wide receiver each way, two tight ends. Goodson the lone setback. Petrus under center. Motion toward us by Laporta. Fumble the football on the snap. It's loose on the turf. They're around it. Penn State's got it. Lamont Wade to the 30. Wade tries to spin out of there and is taken down at the 29-yard line. But Lamont Wade with his second fumble recovery of the season. And the Nittany Lions have it at the Iowa 29-yard line. Motion by Lee away from us. Back goes Clifford, pump fakes, delivers downfield. He's got him at the 15, the 10, inside the 10. Brent Strange to the goal line. Touchdown, Penn State. A takeaway and a score. Sean waits, takes the snap. Play action fake, steps up, throws it long and deep for Dotson down the field. Dotson at the 20, got it, 15 to the 10. Dotson to the 5, into the end zone. Touchdown, Penn State. A 68-yard strike from Sean Clifford to Jahan Dotson. And the Nittany Lions are back in the ball game. Attacking the north end zone to our left. Dotson far side. Bunch set near side. Washington in the slot. Throws. Lee's got it. Lee to the end zone. And he's got it. 2-point conversion good. Sean Clifford takes it back to pass. With time over the middle. Caught by Keziah Holmes. Taken down for a first down at the Iowa 28. 5 seconds to go.
Some good one-handed catch that time by Holmes to bring it in for the first down.
And the clock will run out. Iowa comes in here and gets 24 points off of takeaways and beats Penn State 41-21. And that's the story. That is the story of the game. Today's show brought to you by Purdy Insurance. Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, life, business. They'll look to save you money. Maybe that means bundles. They are the insurance professionals best in the business. And on this Thanksgiving week, are we ever thankful for Purdy Insurance? And I think that a lot of people who work with Purdy Insurance are thankful that they have pros like Purdy Insurance working for them. Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. And we are in the Sunbury Motors studio. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. And online at sunburymotors.com. Obviously, Matt played back what the highlights of the game. And the way they do things, for example, just so you know how things work, because sometimes people don't know how it works. And that is as follows. Learfield does highlights for, obviously, they do it in Jefferson City. And for each one, for each school, of which we're one, they do the highlights. They do the highlights centered around, quote, your team. So in other words, like Matt can tell you, Matt, you go to the highlight page. Are there any Iowa highlights there?
That's right. No, it is just Penn State.
Right. That's when, like, somebody complained a couple weeks ago, like, all you do is play back the 2 field goals at halftime. What a disgrace. I'm like, no offense, that's what.
That tells the story of the game.
Right? But no offense, that's all we have. All right? You can't look at them and say, hey, play back this, this, and this, because that's not what they're cutting up. And they're doing that in Jefferson City, Missouri. We're not doing that in the booth. We don't have any control over that at all. It's like somebody was complaining about a guest we had on the post-game show. Well, we put in requests, but we're not down there. We can't get them. So we end up who they supply to us. That's why I always get a kick out of people that are critical sometimes that have zero clue how it works. Like, okay, well, I'll have to explain that later. But the story of the game is the takeaways. It's the turnovers. That's the whole game right there. Okay. Now, how you get there are some of the turnovers, for example, right? Related to bad execution? Is it related to something Iowa did? Is it related to a bad matchup? Whatever, or is it just an unforced error? Well, the pitch play to Lee is just a flat-out unforced error. In fact, when Will Levis takes the snap, my first thought is, like, as soon as he took the snap and pitched it, I'm like, oh, I like this play, because the play was open. The play was open. I thought, I'm thinking to myself, this could be like an 8 to 15-yard play. And ball's on the ground. And when the ball's on the ground, Iowa recovers, and, of course, they take it in, and they get points out of it. And that is the beginning of how everything's going. I mean, you look at Brisker. Brisker plays it perfectly at the Iowa 45-yard line. Perfectly. Gets the inside, the whole deal, boom, hits it right in the one, and falls to the ground. You're like, oh. You sit there and say, you got to be kidding me. That wasn't broken up by Iowa. He just flat out didn't catch it. So you don't get that, and then you immediately turn around and you, on the pitch play, you put it on the ground. Iowa didn't cause that. Penn State caused that. Was it a bad play call? No, it was a great play call, as a matter of fact. Because as soon as he took it, and I could tell what they were going to run, I could just tell just by the initial read on the thing, as Matt works on his computer. I could tell, I'm looking, I glanced over just to see how open it was, and it was wide open. Like, wow. And all of a sudden, boom, the ball's in the ground. So you drop an interception, then in an unforced error, you put the ball on the ground, which then leads to points, which again then leads to you being behind the football 8-ball. Great. Turnovers determine so much in winning and losing. It's remarkable. Iowa scored 41 points in the game. 24 of the 41 points were directly off of takeaways. 24 points directly off of takeaways. It determines so much along the way. Giveaway, takeaway determines momentum. Giveaway, takeaway determines field position. Penn State last year was a +8 for the season, which means in most games they were on either even or on the plus side of the ledger. Penn State last year on field position was +700 yards for the season. Okay, +700 yards for the season. This season, Penn State is a minus, it's between 250 and 300. I've got the exact number on my chart. So I'll say 250 to be conservative. So that's 50 yards a game. A big part of that's turnovers. Big part of that is turnovers. And then, because a lot of these turnovers have occurred in the first half, the Levis fumble, well, that was in the third quarter, but the fumble I'm talking about was in the first half. You get behind the football 8-ball, and then you're going from there. I mean, Iowa got the ball. Where'd they get the ball? The 41, 42-yard line on that? So now you have a short field, and you have a chance to increase what you're doing on the scoreboard, which they did. Great. Let's start the second half. Okay, second half. Iowa's got the ball. And Iowa comes out and starts to put together a methodical drive. Okay. So they start to do this. And then Penn State defense steps up, bows its back, causes Iowa to punt. Let's see. Iowa opening kickoff. Penn State comes right away. Okay, this is actually out of the gate, so I've got the scenario slightly wrong. Iowa comes out of the gate. I remember saying, Jack, if they can get a 3-and-out and get the ball, okay, you need the sequence to go perfectly, but you need a 3-and-out, get the ball, you score, and now you can change the dynamics of the second half. Okay. Well, Penn State's defense comes out right away and gets a 3-and-out. In fact, not only a 3-and-out, but Iowa loses yardage on the drive. Perfect. And Penn State gets the ball on the Iowa 46-yard line. 46-yard line. Because Penn State, the first sequence of the second half, is a 3-and-out. And not only a 3-and-out, but Iowa started from the 25-yard line. And when it was over with, they were back on their own 9. So they had to punt out of the end zone. So a great opening sequence by your defense. It's what you needed. Not only that, Iowa only ran 1:52 off the clock, which I'll get to that in a moment. So Penn State gets the ball on the punt at the Iowa 46. Well, this is so far, everything is fallen into place as to what you need. In the very first play, fumble. Will Levis gets hit from behind, fumbles. All right. Iowa's got the ball. Penn State's had the ball one play. Iowa then goes on a 12-play, 54-yard drive from their own 46. So they get field position, the ball, and now they had to go to work, and momentum. 12-play, 54-yard drive. They knock 6:13 off the clock. So in this sequence, Penn State gets what it wants. They get the punt they want. They get the field position they want and turn the ball over in the very first play. First play. Iowa gets the ball back, knocks 6:13 off the clock. You are now 9 minutes and 15 seconds. Let me see here. I want to make sure I got my math right. Or 8 minutes and 15 seconds into the second half. You've had it one play. They've had it 15 plays. And this is after you created a 3-and-out. They score, increase their lead. And not only that, let's get to the part nobody talks about. You're running out of possessions. You're running out of possessions. And that is a big problem. Okay. To get back in the game, you need possessions. Well, because of that turnover, you lost possessions. Okay, you lost a possession. They drain the clock on their drive, which then reduces possessions, which puts a lot of pressure to go out and get one-play drives. So then Sean comes in the game. Okay, Iowa finally fumbles the ball. Wade recovers, you heard that. Then the touchdown pass right away, 28 yards to Brenton Strange. Boom, touchdown. Iowa gets the ball back, field goal attempt, missed it. Long field goal, though. It was a 50-yarder. His career long's 49. He missed it. Penn State gets the ball back, one play, 68 yards. Now, at the end of the third quarter, it's 31-21. You got a two-point conversion as well. And, of course, you know why they didn't get the extra point. The other one was because of the fumble. And you sit there and go, all these turnovers, they're just killing you. You're back in the game. It's 31-21. 31-21. You're back in the game. Iowa, to its credit, comes down the field. Now it's 34-21. All right? Okay. But you were down 2 scores when the Iowa drive began. You're still down 2 scores. And then, not a great throw because Nixon deflects the ball up in the air. Golson picks it off, and Iowa's back in business with another interception. You just sit back and go, shake your head. On the pyramid of problems, this is at the top of the pyramid. It affects everything. It affects everything. It affects, for example, I mean, you can't count on it, but as the game goes and it's happening, it then affects, all right, do I want to go for it here? It affects what play call I want to call. It affects what defense you want to be in. Because now you're trying to overcome turnovers. I mean, there's a domino effect throughout. Now, do you have to do X amount of things better? Of course you have to do. Penn State really struggled running the ball after the opening sequence where Levis on that 75-yard drive ran the ball so effectively. Iowa then took it away. Right? So you're struggling running the ball. You got to do a better job in space. I'll give you an example of defensive play call correct, discipline correct, touchdown Iowa. The touchdown by Goodson at the 10-yard line. That's not a scheme problem. Remotely. They try to get the flow going to their right or Penn State's left with the idea they're going to bring it back against the flow to Goodson. So they run it, boom, and Lucchetta gets himself right out there and beats the play. And then, instead of squaring up and nailing him, he gets faked, and Goodson goes into the end zone for a touchdown. You got to be better there. You got to be better. So you get, 14 possessions in a game? Six yards possession. And so what's 6 times 14, Matt? That's 60, 84 yards, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's 84 yards you lose in the game. And a big part of that is because of the turnovers. Which team had more 3 and outs in the game? Iowa had 4, Penn State had 2. But you're down, I mean, the giveaway, takeaway thing, okay, there's a lot of things that you can identify as they've got to be better here, be better there, be better here, be better there. But it all starts, it all starts at the top of the pyramid with giveaway, takeaway. You're not going to win a game when you're -3 because you turned it over 4 times, and they scored 24 points off of that. You're not going to win. And Penn State's had that 180 in each of the last 4 years. It's been Penn State that wins giveaway, takeaway. Now, I pointed out before, but the stat is simple. Penn State, when they win explosive plays and giveaway, takeaway in the same game, they're 23-0. What does that tell you? The domino effect of it is tremendous. Now, are there reasons why you're turning it over? Is it a bad decision? Is it a bad matchup? Is it a missed assignment? Yeah, we can go through all of that, but the bottom line is the turnover part of it. The turnover part of it is the part that, if you had to pick one thing, it is the crusher of all crushers. All right, we'll take a break. Back with more in a moment, brought to you by Purdy Insurance. Bob Flounders next here on News Radio 1070 WKOK. When it comes to car buying, there's the other guy's way, and then there's the SMC way. The other guys force you into a vehicle you really don't want. The Sunbury Motors way lets you take the time you need to browse, ask questions, and take the test drive and think on it. For over 100 years, the Mertz family and all their employees have made your experience the most pleasant one you'll ever have. The other guys won't offer you the best price for your trade, no matter how much they say they will. The SMC way is their promise to provide you with the most money the market shows your vehicle is worth. The SMC way is to offer you all applicable factory rebates on new vehicles and generous discounts. Looking for a pre-owned vehicle? The SMC way checks each vehicle in a 200-mile radius to determine the lowest price, then beat it. It's the lowest price promise, just part of the SMC way. The choice is up to you, the other guy's way or the SMC way. The SMC way wins every time. Sunbury Motors Company in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and at sunburymotors.com. Selling more cars and satisfying more customers for over 100 years.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Today's show brought to you by our great friends at Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, life, business. Whatever your insurance need may be, they will take care of it, and they'll do everything they can to save you money. Maybe it's bundles, whatever it may be. But they'll work on it. They'll update your policies. If you ever have a claim, they'll act as if it happened to them. They'll go right to work for you. Customer service means everything. And on a great Thanksgiving week, we're always thankful not only for great sponsors, but also thankful for the great people at Purdy Insurance. Market Street in Sunbury, go to purdyinsurance.com. And we're in the Sunbury Motors studio, Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Again, you want to talk about thankful? This or not, I think we lost Bob there, right? Or we don't have him yet?
Yeah, still working on him.
Okay, that's fine. We'll get Bob in a second. Good. But let me make this quick point here. It actually gives me a chance to make a great point. This show is in the process of finishing up its 9th year on WKOK. So in other words, when we get to the first week of February, we will begin our 10th year of being on News Radio 1070 WKOK and Sunbury Broadcasting. Sunbury Motors has been with us since day one. Purdy Insurance has been with us since day one. Brewers Outlet has been with us since day one. Now, you know how I feel about loyalty. Matt, I think I've made it pretty apparent over the years about how I feel about loyalty.
Absolutely.
That's why the guy in the back corner office is so disturbing. All right, so I'm just kidding. It was a cheap joke. Okay, but okay. Something that my parents instilled in my brother and me all the time. But loyalty has to be a two-way street. But think about that. A show that's been on the air 9 years. Sunbury Motors, their day one. Purdy Insurance, their day one. Brewers Outlet, day one. All still there. I think the world of these people. And so I'll talk about whatever. I will speak about them in such a way where if I can drive business their direction, I am going to every opportunity I get. They're great people. They're just great people. And I cannot be thankful enough to have that kind of loyalty toward this show, and hopefully they've felt that in return from me and from the radio station. Can't thank them enough. Thanksgiving week, you got to, want to make sure I talked about that part of it. I mean, think about that, Matt. 3 primary big-time companies like that from day one, and they're right here with us. I cannot say enough great things about them. I mean, they've looked over and they said, yep, we keep investing in that show. We want to make sure the investment is worth it. Friday show is going to be an interesting show. Maybe some James Franklin on Friday's show. Would you like to hear that? Maybe some Jim Ferry, some Guy Gadowski. How about that for Friday's show? You like that, Matt? Yeah, while you're out boating in Lake Powell, like Wallenpaupack? I get mad about that. They go out boating? All right, we're going to get Bob Flounders here from PennLive.com joining us. Bob, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Always grateful for the opportunity to talk to you. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Steve, it's great to hear from you as well. Happy Thanksgiving to you. It's been a while. I always enjoy coming on your show and talking with you. Hope Jack Ham's doing well as well. I know you get to talk to him. But, yeah, happy holidays to you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Appreciate you and the hard work you put in as well. Obviously, the first question I asked in the postgame show on Saturday was about turnovers. When you look at how the season has played out, what has been the domino effect of the turnover problem this team has had this season?
I mean, and it is like I think they are -9, I believe. I think that's the turnover margin.
-9 and 51 points off of those takeaways.
Yeah, and I think that all of them are on the quarterbacks in some shape or form. It's either been interceptions or fumbles, and it's been at key junctures, and it's been in the red zone, and it's been defensive touchdowns. It's just been magnified. The Big Ten is, it's tough to win in the Big Ten when you don't turn the ball over, Steve. And you look at the schedule that they've played: Indiana, Ohio State, Maryland's obviously better. I mean, Iowa is a sound football team. A lot of those teams are. They make you beat them. And if you're going to turn the ball over against teams like that, your margin for error is almost non-existent. But yeah, they were. I thought some of the better teams the last couple of years have been very good at protecting the ball, and unfortunately, even starting with the Indiana game, you look at that first half with the mistakes, and you look at what happened in that game, and they win that game if they just are a little bit better at protecting the ball, and they win the Nebraska game as well. And we're talking about a much different season, but unfortunately, it's a problem that they have not been able to correct, and they've turned the ball over at the absolute worst time, and now it's just very unfortunate. If they're just even in turnover margin, we're probably talking about a 2-3 team minimum, and it's a much different feel.
Right. I mean, in fact, you could be talking maybe because of momentum, you might be 4-1.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
because suddenly, in other words, you feel better about yourself. There's a different vibe, different feel. You don't know. Could be 2-3, right. Could be 4-1, whatever, 3-2 something. But there'd be a team that people have a different thought process about. But that's what crushes them in all this is the giveaway, takeaway. And not only that, in each of the last 3 games, the opponent's defense has scored a touchdown. Even worse.
Yeah, I mean, the Iowa game, the final score is 41-21, right? But Penn State in that first half, it's 7-3. And they're able to do some things. Obviously, they lost Devin Ford. They didn't have Pat Freiermuth. But, watching them on that long drive when they made it 7-3, I thought, I watched that drive and I thought, what, Penn State, even with their issues, they should win this game. And it just kind of it's gone the other way, and they just have not been fortunate at all with that. But you're right, it's one thing to turn the ball over. It's another thing 3 straight weeks to give up a defensive touchdown. And, Steve, it's really, really hard to be competitive if you're going to do that on a regular basis. And what it's probably done to the confidence of the team, I mean, it has to have snowballed. And, I always go back to, that Indiana game. Indiana is a really, really good team, and I watched some of the Ohio State game where they gave Ohio State all they wanted. And, Penn State, at one point in that game, I thought they were about a 98% lock to finish them off. That was a good team. The defense played well. The offense had almost 500 yards. Sean Clifford in the second half of that game, I thought, gutsy, almost heroic performance. They did a lot of things right in that game, and it just seems like ever since overtime, it's just been a different Penn State team, and you just can't – they just have not been able to get their footing, and unfortunately, you look at the rest of the schedule, it's just a very tough road that they face.
Yeah, and there's no question. What's happened, many of these turnovers have occurred in the first half. So what's happened is that it's not a question of just you playing uphill. Here's the part that's discounted that I never hear anybody talk about, because you're always concentrating. Penn State's mistakes in turning the ball over, especially in the first half, they have not, at that point, the opposition has not had to change how they want to play.
Right.
Because they've been the team in front. They haven't had to change their approach to the game because they're the team in front. Yeah,
I mean, going into the Iowa game, I think they had gone Ohio State, Maryland, and Nebraska. They were either behind or they were even. They never had a lead in any one of those three games, and
that's right.
And I think James talks about, being disruptive, but they've never made the other team uncomfortable. It's just, there's been no duress, there's been no adversity, and Penn State, their defense obviously has had some issues this year, Steve. But one of the things they've never really played with a lead. I mean, very rarely late in the Indiana game, and for a couple minutes, Saturday at Beaver Stadium, and unfortunately they gave the lead back. But it's tough to dictate with the athletes that you have on defense when you're always behind, and the other team has never really faced any adversity, and it starts with Penn State's inability to hold on to the football, and it's just been, I don't know, Steve, I've been covering the team since 2002. It's hard to put into words how many things have went against this Penn State team, because in my mind, there are 9, 10, or 11 players on this team, offense or defense, that's playing a lot that I think are going to play in the NFL, and for them to be 0-5 and to lose it the way that they have, it's really, really hard to imagine that.
And when you look at the teams that played, the Iowa people will privately tell you their biggest concern was Spencer Petras trying to play from behind. I talked to enough of them before the game. I'm not talking out of turn here. Same thing with Tagovailoa. And absolutely that was the feeling about McCaffrey. And Penn State never, because of it goes back to the turnovers, because there's where the domino begins. They never put them behind the football 8-ball where they forced the opposing team's quarterback to then suddenly have to put it on their shoulders and win a game. They didn't have to. They had a comfort level in playing.
Yeah, Steve, and if you just, you look at the next three games, and that's going to be the case too. If Penn State can get in a position where they can get up 7 or 10 points in the second half, and maybe they get some turnovers, or maybe the other team has some things go against them, you look at some of the quarterbacks they're going to face down the stretch, and you look at the quality of some of the skill people they're going to face and the offensive lines they're going to face. If they can get in a position to be up 7 to 10 points, even 7 points, they can win all three of these games. But it's just, if something happens consistently for 5 games, it's just, I think doubt creeps in if you're on the Penn State side, and you just wonder. But they need to get to a point later in the game where they can make the other team uncomfortable, and they got to force them maybe to play a style of football that they don't want to play. And for 5 games, say for a couple of stretches against the Indiana game. I mean, the Indiana game, they only really made Indiana uncomfortable in the fourth quarter. In the first half they were comfortable. Third quarter they were comfortable. But it's been 20 quarters of football, and the other team's probably been comfortable for 19 of them.
That's right, and that's a big part of it. Iowa, for example, came into the game averaging, I think, around 383 yards a game offensively. They had about a 10-yard difference per game from passing to rushing. Pretty good balance in terms of yardage. Well, Saturday was an 11-yard difference between passing and rushing. And they didn't crack 400 yards in total offense in the game, but they were able to play their game because they weren't forced off their game. Yeah,
I really felt of the games that Penn State has played, I thought that they matched up so well with Iowa going into the game, and that was before, obviously, you heard the news about Freiermuth, and not another big loss, and Devin Ford's gone after the first series, and that really impacts what they want to do trying to run the ball for sure. But, one of the reasons why I thought Penn State had done so well against Iowa before Saturday is, you always kind of know what Iowa wants to do. There's not a lot of trickery. There's not a lot of, the script kind of the same. The quarterback probably going to be in the pocket. You don't really have to worry about him running or extending plays, and all of that should help the defense. And, they get that 7-3 lead. They work hard for it. And, that second quarter, I think, when Iowa scored, 21 points, and, Penn State's offense just, they got to the point where they were in short yardage situations, I think, on 3 straight drives, and there was turnovers or failed conversions, and it spiraled again. It was in about a 6 or 7 minute span, Steve. The game went from, Penn State looks like, they can win this game to it's going to be, they're going to have to dig out of another hole, and it was hard to see coming, and you don't usually see Iowa do that to a team.
I know the PennLive suggestion box is always open. So what are some of the suggestions you're getting lately in the suggestion box?
Oh, boy. It's just, I don't know. It's really, I think a lot of people felt good about Penn State maybe beating Iowa and have it go that way. I don't know. Steve, I don't know. I just think that, what's going to change? That they're running out of bullets quickly, Steve, in terms of good players, skilled players, and you just wonder how you can fix it. If you're not going to protect the ball, it really doesn't matter, how good your offensive line is, or it doesn't really matter, how good your 2 top corners or 2 top 3 corners are. You don't even know if Tariq Castro-Fields is going to play, and he's one of the better players on their defense. So right. I just, I think if you're Penn State and you're James, it's no matter what happens in the next 3 weeks, you got to develop your younger players that you're like, whether it's Caden Wallace, whether it's Brandon Smith at linebacker, whether it's some of the younger players, maybe in the secondary. They have. I really like Parker Washington, especially what he can do in the middle of the field. They haven't really been able to establish a third wideout all year, but that's not that unusual. But they have some players they like. The young tight ends, you saw a little of Theo Johnson and Bretton Strange. You have to get some positives out of this season. And to me, other than obviously winning a game, I just think that you at the last 3 weeks of the season, if they're going to play that Champions Week game, you want to see some of these young players, get some experience, and just kind of. You want to evaluate some progress. So that's what I'm going to be watching for. Is I think they'd like some of these young guys, and I think these guys are going to have to help them in the next couple of weeks and next year. But when you're 0-5, and you're going to turn the turnover issues at quarterback have just been, like you said, they've been killing Penn State. To me, it's about the young player development, and hopefully, in the second half of one of these games, you're going to see Penn State play with the lead because we just haven't seen it.
Right, exactly. Bob, always a pleasure. Thanks a lot for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Okay, Steve. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you, my friend. Bob Flounders, PennLive.com. Back with more in a moment on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Just telling Matt, the governor closed all the bars on Thanksgiving Eve. All right. The bars will be closed at 5 o'clock. That changes everything for me, Matt.
Yeah, you party animal, you.
That's me. Thanksgiving Eve. I'm going to do basketball, do this show, and then I had planned on going out. Yeah.
Well, you got to have to do that at home now to celebrate a long day.
That's my, in order to do the basketball game, I've had to do several things. I always tape a TV show on Wednesday, so I called and I got it pushed back. And it's Thanksgiving week, so that week the show instead of an hour is always a half hour because they give the crew Thanksgiving off. So a shorter show is less for them to edit. So we always do a half hour Thanksgiving week anyway, so that's fine. I then asked the quarterback club, can we move back a half hour? And they did. That way I can be on at 12:30 and then do the game at 1 o'clock. So it's just, I'll be honest with you, 1 o'clock tip-off, I mean, I know because they're not in class right now, they can play anytime, but it was among the last things I expected. For nearly 100 years, Purdy Insurance has been your locally owned, family-operated source for insurance products. With a staff of over 20 and partnerships with some of the industry's most trusted companies, Purdy has the experience and resources to get the job done. Whether you need personal, home, and auto, or complex business insurance solutions, Purdy will help you navigate through the process. Call today at 570-286-5855. Or better yet, stop in their Sunbury office to see what Purdy Insurance can do for you.